What's good, everyone? It's Zigzag here. Welcome back to another Geoguessr video. Today, I am joined by my good friend Radu, who is one of the best players in the world. Radu, what's up? Welcome back to the channel, bro.
Yo, good to be on, as always.
Absolutely. So today we had the idea of doing some streaks on normal world map, and we're just going to be explaining our entire thought process so that you can kind of get a good glimpse into the way pros are thinking about rounds and whatnot, and hopefully therefore improve your gameplay as well. Start with some no moving, move over to some NMPZ at the end, and let's see how many countries in a row we can get, and you know, if we can get some interesting rounds to explain here. Okay, first one here.
It's looking a little close to home, I think.
Looking a little close to home for Mr. Radu here. I could definitely agree to that. So, what strikes you immediately about this round, Radu, if you're looking around as a newer player or something like that?
Yeah, so first thing, obviously, is the poles here. So we have these big concrete poles with the holes in them, and they're painted white at the bottom, which is another thing that is really common in Romania.
Mm-hmm. It does happen in Hungary, but it's just, yeah, easily more common in Romania, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And you'll also see other patterns as well, like this one's got some yellow. We got blue strip on the plate. And then, yeah, we've got the back of the car here. This is really common in Europe to see the back of the blue car in the new coverage, the, you know, very bright new coverage. So that kind of differentiates it from most of the rest of the world where you'd see the front of the car. And so, yeah, and that normally is like characterized by this little blue tab. So in terms of where in Romania, is there anything to give you a clue here, apart from like the fact that we're quite flat here?
One of the big things for Romania is usually the roof type. So there's some areas that have more tiled roofs and some areas that have more like metal sheet roofs usually.
This is like a metal
This
sheet
looks to
one,
be, yeah, like a corrugated iron sort of roof. It looks like most of them, there's a couple of tiled roofs here and there, but they're mostly like more of this like new fake tile.
So we have fake tiles here, real tiles here, and corrugated iron here, I think.
Yeah. And
more fake tiles.
While you can get tiles everywhere in the country, like there are certain areas where there's almost everything is tiled. This doesn't seem to be that. We have more of a mix, so you'd be thinking more of the east and south part of the country, whereas the western northwest area has more of just tiled roofs.
And does that kind of correspond with how wealthy those parts of Romania are, or no?
I think it's like historical wealth, just because the western area was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, right. So it was just a different influence from Hungary and such.
And it carries over to today. So for example, the fake tiles you would count more so as like not tiled, whereas like you.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Like you can certainly get those on modern houses all over the country, but it's like something to keep in mind, I guess, for like. It might be outside of that northwestern area if it's fake tiles.
Okay, for sure. So I guess with that in mind, maybe I'd be thinking the south of the country. What are you thinking here?
I agree, because it's kind of flat. Like the eastern part of the country is like these rolling hills mostly, whereas the southern part is a lot more flat. A little bit of rolling hills here and there, but not as much.
So maybe just near Bucharest here. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
All right, let's check it out. What was there? Very nice. Okay, that's really good. Even myself, I mean, maybe like kind of inside, I knew this, but like I would have struggled to express it, you know. So that's good to that's good to know. Okay, next one here. We have a very different round, much more rural this time. I'm thinking Russia immediately here, and we turn around to see some confirmation. We have the bollard kind of spam on the corner here. Now these bollards, the one with the kind of stick, and they're kind of, the rest of it's kind of suspended in the air, like you can see it quite clearly here. These ones are the Eastern Russian, like the Siberian bollards, so that's kind of useful.
Yep. And that checks out with the trees as well. We have these larches, so the ones with the spindly needles that go kind of upwards. Very typical.
Yeah, here's a good example.
Russia.
Like you can see how they clearly are just bending, like they're just reaching upwards, which you wouldn't really see like that much on a pine, for example. So that's very, yeah, and that's super eastern. Like you do see them maybe like around this, like a longitude, but once you head out to Yakutsk and Magadan and all this area, then you're gonna see tons of them, tons and tons.
Yep.
I mean, there is such
Exactly.
thing as the European larch as well, which, I mean, you can maybe see, like, near the
There is, but
Finnish border, maybe?
I think the European larch is really common actually in like the Carpathians and like some of the Alps.
Right.
Like it's more of like a mountainous sort of
Mm-hmm.
uh or I
Right.
guess yeah, in some parts of northern Russia you might see it, but it definitely looks different, I think. It's like less or more thick, maybe. I don't know what the right way to describe them is.
Yeah, once you've seen these ones quite a bit,
Yeah.
they're very, very useful to know. And so, we're also on a dirt road, and one thing to note about this one is it's super hazy. So, this kind of hazy, like, bushfire-ish coverage is really common either side of Yakutsk, and particularly west of Yakutsk.
Yeah.
Has tons of that. So, I
This one's
think
a little
this
more
one...
mountainous though, so
Yeah.
you would probably be thinking more east because the western part is like pretty flat, just lots of forest.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the east of Yakutsk, you start to get those mountains going towards Magadan.
Yeah, in fact, actually, yeah, hills this large, I guess you would not really see along this
Yeah,
road, which kind of
exactly.
goes along here, and then you kind of just follow the river. It goes to Mirny. Now, between
Yeah,
Mirny and Lensk, which is where it just about ends, right? But
yeah, it goes
between those
slightly east
two,
of Lens, but pretty much.
between those two is like super bushfirey. Like it's like
Yeah,
the sky is
exactly.
completely red, and like it looks pretty pretty horrible in a way. But
Yeah,
okay, but yeah, this should be the eastern side theoretically, and the mountains are kind of small. So I'm wondering if we are like maybe in some of the sections where the mountains are a bit smaller here,
I wanted to
or is it
say,
further
like,
east out
I
here?
might be wrong about this, but I wanted to say this was the road to Samechan. It's like the off-road.
Yeah, okay,
Samechan's
this
just
one,
slightly
yeah.
north of where you are. Yeah,
Mm.
think it might be that, and that's like the river over there. So
Mm-hmm.
we'd be like really close actually to probably the main road
Right. Okay.
is what I'm thinking because we'd
Also,
be on
there's
the
a
south
river,
side of the
some kind
river.
of a river crossing over here, maybe. That could make sense. I mean, it does
Yeah.
look like kind of like the way the mountains kind of subsiding either side, that we might be looking at a river here.
Yeah.
I guess also another great thing, like if you suspect that you have like Generation 4 and you're in Russia, is to check for the copyright. It's 2022 here, but I think it's like 90+% of the time it would be 2021. So if you're into that, then that's very good to check. But okay, shall we guess on this road and find out then?
Yeah.
It's kind of bending. Yeah, but let's get to it. Okay, and it was just the
Okay,
main road
nice.
there, but still, I mean, like this one, it's yellow on the map, but it is often unpaved like that. In fact, most of the time. So
Yeah.
that's still a good guess. We still got the right territory, Oblast, and still quite close. Okay. Next one here. What's immediately striking you here, Radu?
Well, I think this would be Bolivia if I'm not mistaken, and the white car certainly checks out with that, and double yellow lines obviously would indicate probably somewhere in like the Americas. And it's definitely not an easy round because I had to like kind of think for a second, but I think with the white car it kind of reminds me of that because that white car is mostly like Peru and Bolivia.
Yeah,
I
so
guess
this
Chile
is
as
like
well,
kind of
but I
white car
wouldn't
where you
say.
can see most of the car and then the full brake light. So, I mean, you do get different variants of the white car, but this one in South America is, yeah, found. Peru, Chile, Bolivia, and I think that's it. Like, you would see the white car
Yeah.
in different variations in Colombia and Brazil, but yeah, this is the kind of the ones where you can see the full brake light in most of the car. And I am agreeing on Bolivia here. This is just like, as you said, it's kind of a harder Bolivia round for Bolivian standards, because mostly Bolivia, you are
Yeah.
near one of the bigger towns, which all have their kind of own distinct feel. For example, you're never going to be out in Trinidad. That doesn't have coverage at all. Not least up here, that's not at all covered. Like normally you're near one of these like 5 cities like this, like that.
Yeah.
And so I think we're somewhere like in the mountains between like Cochabamba and Sucre or something like that here, because it kind of feels a bit of a combination where we have this reddish soil, which is really common near Potosi and Sucre, but also it kind of feels like kind of temperate, or like, I don't know, in a way, like it's quite vegetated, but
Yeah.
also quite dry at the same time. So kind of feels like a mix of like the dryness down here mixed with like kind of the, you know, vegetatedness here. kind of feeling.
Yeah,
halfway.
I definitely agree. I would go pretty much the same area.
Right, and we do have a
Somewhere
river
around
here.
here.
I mean, that would
Probably not
check
mapped.
for that road. Oh yeah, it might not be mapped as well. But we are going kind of east-west, so maybe this one instead or something. Let's just go there.
Sure.
Okay, and it was nearby. Yeah, so I mean, and also Bolivia, you always have the white car. So in Peru, it's more like, you know, in Generation 3, it's kind of 50-50. But in Generation 3 in Bolivia, well, always in Bolivia, because they don't have Gen 4 yet, is just the white car. So yeah, good guess. Okay. This one, with these kind of trees, so like in Africa, you have like lots of these like kind of wide, low trees. You can see these like quite a lot in Kenya and stuff, but this one, with again the same white car that we saw in the last round, would put us in Southern Africa. And the country should be relatively straightforward. What are you thinking for that?
I'm definitely thinking Botswana. It's just kind of a camera generation meta here with like the Gen 3. You're much more likely to be in Botswana than South Africa with that. And with this dry coverage, like it's much too dry and flat for Eswatini or Lesotho, for example.
Yeah, that's right.
So pretty much you're stuck with the only option being Botswana here.
Yeah, I mean the other thing is you do get a small amount of similar looking coverage on the South African border. But it is quite negligible, so if you're in the 50-50, best to side with Botswana. And yeah, obviously on the more basic level, we have the yellow outer lines with the white center lines, which is super Botswanan and super Southern African. And then also we have a wooden pole here. I've noticed, like, in general, as a more advanced tip, if you're playing NMPZ like this, for example, that the crossbars on Botswanan poles are a bit longer than South African ones, in my opinion. So that could help you out once you've played a bit and have a feel for it. I feel like that is kind of accurate. Also, probably the support beams, you can see in both countries, but probably quite common in Botswana as well. And I am thinking, so we have also a bit of autumn coverage here, where you can see like a lot of the leaves are kind of reddish. So I was thinking more so like this direction here, like you get this a lot like surrounding Francistown, surrounding Palapye. So
yeah, exactly.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Would you have any opinion on that?
I'm thinking the same area, yeah. It should be in that northeastern sort of area. Or
we do have
eastern,
some hills there to our north, which is kind of interesting. So probably not this road then.
Yeah.
Maybe,
I think it might be closer to what's that place called? Palapia or Saroa. Yeah, exactly.
Because they do have, there is some hilliness inside here. So yeah, maybe it's that road. They're going northish though. So, but we're not on the main road because the angle's pretty distinct there, generally speaking. I feel it could actually be the north of. Anyway, let's just
that
make
stuff's more wintry. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's more wintry. Then maybe we are like downtown. No, why not? Let's go in the Sorora road. Okay, and it was all the way out there. Okay, well that's fine. Bit of a weird angle because normally that would be like an east-west road, but
yeah, and the hills are a little bit surprising for there, but I guess I don't know that exact area that well.
Right. But yeah, generally speaking, this pocket has a lot of that kind of dry and autumn coverage.
Yeah, and the red soil especially.
Yeah.
Like the western part of the country has much more like whitish soil.
Yeah, and even when it has redder soil, it's much more sandy, whereas the east of the country is much less sandy. So you see actually like sand that you could like kind of run your hands through and pick up, but this is just much more normal looking. And I guess like when we see Namibia, we're gonna get a lot of that sandy stuff probably. Yeah. I think that's all to say there though.
Yep.
Last round of the first seed here. Okay. So what are we looking at here?
Major thing that my eyes went to were the fences. These fences made out of the trees, like the tree bark, and they're like spammed over here. And the main country that does that is Colombia, but you do also find that sometimes in Mexico and Brazil and some other Latin American countries. But like generally, you should definitely be thinking Latin America when you see these types of fences. But yeah. Colombia by far uses that the most.
Yeah, people call it the Colombian fences. It's definitely a super useful little meta there. Obviously, I might turn the car script on for the next seed so we can no longer see the car. But on this one, we do have the stubby antenna. which is kind of like a little bit thicker than the European antenna and also quite short. And it also normally has a rib on it at some point. And yeah, this one's the Latin American variant, which you can only see. It's exclusive to Mexico, Colombia, Ecuador, and Brazil. So very useful one if you're not quite sure between, for example, Brazil and Argentina or someone like that. Super useful. Yeah, I would say particularly with this kind of like the spammed fence with the trees growing in it, definitely Colombia and like sometimes Mexico. I feel like that's the two countries where you see it the most. Now within Colombia, this is like quite dry. So what are you thinking? I mean, I was thinking this is Colombia. We could also check this. It's kind of directly south. So I mean, that's fitting for Colombia and Mexico. Where are you thinking if it is Colombia, or do you think it's Mexico potentially? What are you thinking?
I think it's Colombia. Usually when you see these fences in Mexico, it's more of the Gulf Coast area, and that area is a lot more green.
Yeah.
Whereas the Gulf Coast part of Colombia is a lot more dry, generally.
Right.
So, yeah, probably somewhere near Barranquilla or south of Cartagena. Somewhere in that area is pretty much where I would go.
Yeah, that's also what I'm thinking. I'm just trying to think, like, because I mean, it's a good point. Like, you do get very dry areas in Mexico. I feel like a lot of people would struggle to go Colombia here because it is quite a tropical country. But yeah, it's just worth keeping in mind that whatever season they covered the like area in is highly going to affect where you guess. And also they did a lot of like the dry season coverage in the north of Colombia. Yeah. So you do often see rounds that look quite a lot like this up there. So yeah, I think this should be the correct answer. Let's find out. Yeah, nice. And there we go. A nice 23k to start off with there. Definitely pretty solid. Now let's turn on the no-car script here, which you can get, well, I might have a link if I remember. And we'll do one more on no moving here without the Google. Okay, so first one here. Oh, this is interesting. So, well, NMPZ, what strikes you about the round? Like, what are your eyes going to first, rather than specifically any clues?
So it looks like we're driving left here, first of all, with this truck. Mm-hmm. And we have white center lines, and then we have like a Norfolk pine over there. Is that?
Yeah, that would be a Norfolk pine,
maybe.
I believe.
Yeah, it is, I guess. Yeah, so I wasn't like entirely sure, but now looking at those bollards, which I can like make out a little better, it's New Zealand.
Yeah. And
that would make sense with the Norfolk pine, which is quite common in like sort of that Pacific area, I guess.
Definitely. I mean, at first I thought it was Chile until I saw the bollards and everything. And saw that it was left-hand drive. And I think the kind of interesting thing that we see here with this particular view, we don't see any hills, so that's why New Zealand didn't come to mind.
Exactly. It was a little difficult. Like I was even like thinking, could it be like Victoria or something in Australia?
But of course, when you turn around, you're always going to be able to see some hills in New Zealand. I think there's actually nowhere where you could see complete flatness, except for Christchurch. Christchurch is the one exception, which is has like a.
But even then, you usually see the mountains in the distance.
Yeah, it would have to be like a very smoggy day or something for you to miss that, or NMPZ. But okay, yeah. I mean, also like so on a more specific level. I mean, like, obviously with the bollards, we know it's New Zealand. They have the red that wraps the whole way around. We also have the signposts that are painted white. But on a more specific level, I am thinking North Island here, because we have this particular style of fence, which goes thick post, and then followed by a ton of small posts, and then another thick post, and follows a pattern like that. And that one, I believe, if you see it on the South Island, it would just be, like, kind of this area here. But, like, for the whole North Island, it's well possible and quite common. Is there anything else that's striking you in terms of particular region guesses here, or stuff to get New Zealand or something like that?
Well,
it does say Gisborne on the truck, but yeah.
Oh, it does. Interesting. Okay, I honestly was not thinking Gisborne here, so I'm not sure if
I mean trucks lie.
Is there anyway.
Trucks are notorious liars, so
yeah. It's quite flat, which is interesting. Like one of the flattest areas of North Island is the area like near Palmerston North, and Hamilton is another area that's like really flat. So I was thinking like one of those areas, probably.
I was definitely thinking Hamilton here myself, but no, Palmerston North.
Yeah, I'm happy to go Hamilton as well.
Yeah, I guess also like if you see like quite a few palms like this, that
Feels,
would probably
yeah,
be more indicative of the north. But vegetation in
yeah,
New Zealand can be quite difficult to read actually. So
yeah.
I wouldn't. I mean, you can definitely see palms in Invercargill, so just watch out. I've definitely sent wrong because of that. But the fence is actually somewhat consistent, so that's really feeling good. And then obviously Gisborne as well would make sense here. Gisborne though you wouldn't have any flat areas; it's completely hilly,
Yeah,
so we actually can't be in Gisborne here. I think even yeah, there's
yeah,
just
no,
literally nowhere unless we were right here. But these hills are actually too far, even I would say.
yeah,
So yeah, then let's go Hamilton, and as we said, could easily be also somewhere in this flat area, or maybe, well, even that side's too hilly. So yeah, this one, or this one of the two. And it was Gisborne, wow.
it was
Oh, we were
there.
just right in
Wow,
the center of everything, wow. I guess it kind of makes sense.
I'm kind of surprised.
Yeah, so 90, I mean, basically you could, this is the only, like, small corridor in Gisborne that can look like that. Everywhere else you will be in hills. Kind of surprising. But, moving on. Okay, next one here is obviously Japan, so let's break down our region guess here.
Yeah, so one of the big things for Japan is the poles. So there's a lot of different pole metas. You have transformers, you have pole plates, you have like other stuff at the top of the pole. One of the main things that people have learned is the pole plates, and these ones do seem to be useful, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not mistaken, that's 2 horizontal plates, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or is that... Yeah,
I
I
believe
think
that's
that's what
2
it
with
is.
1 vertical, yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's kind of weird. I'm not sure if it's 2 and 1 or
Alright,
it's
I
one
mean,
and one or
yeah, I
let's look
mean,
at
so we have another
someone.
2 and 1 here.
Oh, and it's a is that a rounded plate or is that just
I think it's a normal
rectangle? No,
plate.
that's rectangle.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
say that's a normal plate. So, like, what Radu means
Maybe,
is, like, some of them would, in some, like, areas of Japan, you would have, like, rounded edges rather than flat edges. Obviously, it's not the highest resolution here, but we can pretty much tell it's flat-edged, and I'm using the landscape to infer that as well, but yeah.
yeah, so maybe with the areas that usually have the pole plates that's 1 vertical and 1 horizontal is Tohoku.
Mm-hmm. So that's
But
this
this
region
one
here.
has the longer horizontal plates. So I'm wondering if this is actually Niigata.
Ooh, yeah. So, okay, yeah, so Niigata actually... Niigata's actually... Is Niigata part of Tohoku? Is that right or not?
It kind of is, because
Yeah,
it
it's one of
has
these
the
border ones,
Tohoku
right?
plates, but it also has the Hokuriku plates as well,
Mm.
so it's got a mix.
Yeah, it's
If
like one
I'm
of these
reading the
weird
plates right,
mixed
because it's
ones.
kind of hard to make out here.
That's right, we don't have a full view of any, so it is kind of hard to make out. That could make some sense. I have to say, when this loaded in, just without looking at poles, I was thinking it was Hokkaido. Obviously, pole
Yeah, it
plates
does
with
look quite
horizontal,
northern.
you wouldn't go Hokkaido. But I was thinking if it is not going to be Hokkaido, then I was kind of confident on Aomori. So that's
Yeah,
interesting that these might be longer ones that you find in Niigata. I wonder.
they could be just some fake plates, though. I don't know, honestly.
Also worth mentioning is this, the black and white striped guy wire. So that's really common in the northern half of Japan, probably Tohoku and above.
Yeah,
And then also
northern half
Shikoku.
and then Shikoku, yeah.
Yeah. And we have white striped stickers here, which I'm sure are useful because they seem to be in a lot here, but I don't know them.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know that either.
And we have like interesting snow poles here as well. So this is what really makes me think, like these kind of like complex looking
Yeah,
snow poles make me think that we are going to be in Aomori because it looks like it gets a lot of snow. The architecture style, all in all, is quite European looking. You could definitely confuse that for like a
yeah,
Polish or a, I don't know, something else. So I definitely think like that would be that you would not find such architecture in the south of Japan,
yeah.
like especially these ones maybe. But it still could be Niigata. I'm probably leaning Aomori, Akita, Iwate.
I'm willing to go more north here. I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah.
There's some suspicious stuff going on here.
It is also quite flat, which, I mean, could work, but I feel like Niigata is one of these places that goes from flat to mountainous, whereas Aomori is more of like a mixed landscape, but you do get this kind of like smaller hills mixed with like, yeah, more flatness. So I'm kind of thinking there. Angle of the hills is kind of west, so yeah, that could work for sure. Anything else to say here before we move on, though?
Don't really think so.
Well, the thing is, like, also if you have all horizontal ones, then that's like this area here, like Ishikawa, Toyama. Is it also Fukui? I think so.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Fukui, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's guess and find out. Oh, it was. Wow.
It was, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was a
So I guess
super
those-
typical looking Hokkaido, but
Yeah, I guess the horizontal ones were just kind of fake plates. Let's see what they were actually, because I'm curious to
it's really
see.
interesting. Hmm.
Yeah, they were. So yeah, this design where they have like a bunch of number spam on the vertical pull plate, where yeah, you have like a bunch of two digits like all the way down the pole. That's like the typical Hokkaido pole. So if we actually got to see it, we would have known.
Yeah, if we were in this
immediately
position, we
those
could have got it
Hokkaido.
correct. But
Yep.
all in all, that is, I feel, very rare to have these. I
Yeah,
was
I'm
there in
not
real
sure
life.
what
I
those
never saw
are.
that. So yeah. And then we had another one, which was just a bit unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oh, also, this plate is a bit longer than the typical one as well, I believe. Would that be correct to say?
It
Or
might
maybe
be,
not?
yeah. I think that might be right, yeah.
Well, they do just
Um,
sometimes have bigger plates. And we don't really have any for reference, but I feel like that is
yeah.
even a triple.
But you can
That's
see how all have that same format.
Yeah.
Like with
Yeah,
the
that's right. Yeah,
numbers going
number
down.
spam. Yeah, so that's really interesting. I'm honestly kind of surprised, but if you look at the architecture, that's where like sometimes
Yeah.
metas fall down because the architecture was super Hokkaido.
Yeah, definitely made sense for it.
Mhm.
Like
And-
the more I saw, the more I was like, yeah, this is not really Niigata. I take that back.
yeah, yeah, and it's like interesting because like Hokkaido was like colonized by the Japanese like in the 1800s actually, so a lot of the architecture is more modern, and it's also like during the time of the Meiji Restoration where they were kind of trying to base a lot of their stuff on the Europeans, so that's why it kind of looks a bit less traditional Japanese. Okay, moving on. Next one here, the country might not be so obvious, especially with that car for people. So what immediately strikes you about what you see here, Radu?
The main thing I noticed, so one of the things was the, I mean, you're moving away from it, but the pole on the other side, which was like this mesh pole,
Mhm.
that's like pretty typical of Turkey. We also had the bins, like, just under the pole, like over here, yeah. These are like typical where they have like the text and it'll say like, well, sometimes it says the actual city or municipal government on it. And they're just like this gray color. It's just once you see them, you start to recognize them.
Mhm.
And then there's also a mosque in the back, like that minaret you can make out there. So
Honestly,
told us
I would say
very-
like it's got to be at least like 20-30% of Turkey rounds where you can see a minaret peeking out somewhere.
yeah, exactly.
So
You get
yeah.
one of those like random rural dirt roads, and you have like no idea, and then like this one minaret comes in clutch, which you see from like 2 miles away. It's like actually so OP.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wonder when Bosnia comes out. I mean, I'm sure Bosnia, like, there's not too many places that look
Mhm.
like Turkey, but that could actually become, slightly
True.
difficult for, like, as a Muslim or a half-Muslim country.
Yeah.
Okay, well, another great thing for Turkey, if you don't know, is just, like, the capital I's having a dot, which that one doesn't, but yeah, these ones do. Very useful. It's a letter that in capitals only exists in Turkey. In Turkish, I believe. So, okay. Anything else to mention here? This is like the Turkish pavement, this pattern. So,
True.
if
Yep.
you are missing other clues and are very rural, then you can use this. Or it's going to exist in other countries. Like we have it in Australia, but it's like the Turkish type of pavement. You can see it again on the road here. It's often roads would be made of it. And then also yellow and white painted curbs. You can kind of see that here. Super Turkish. Yeah, you can see it's very faded, but they used to have that here as well. Vibes. It feels pretty warm. We have lots of pines. Yeah, I feel like Turkey. It's pretty gettable once you have a pole and a minaret and some language. You're good. You're golden. Okay. Do you have a region guess here? We're in industrial
This
area.
one, yeah, it's definitely not giving us a lot of clues as to where. I was kind of thinking this was slightly more east, or it's at least central, like central east. I wouldn't go west, I think.
And okay, if you were thinking central and east, I was thinking kind of south. So maybe we'll combine that.
Yeah,
and go central
that
south.
Totally makes sense, yeah. I could see like a Mersin, whatever that, like Adana area, like that could totally make sense.
Yeah, I kind of like that because we don't see any mountains. I mean, to be fair, we have big buildings all around us, but it is still something. And then also, one thing one thing that Gelotris told me when we were playing is that, hopefully I'm not leaking anything here, but he was just saying like when you no, I'm not. When you see a lot of like industrial stuff or like big companies running and stuff like that, it's much more of a Western Turkey thing. Obviously we can't really infer too much, but we do have like a brand new industrial building. So, oh, that's an interesting street sign. Could still be Ankara. I know the new one's in Ankara already.
Yeah, the Ankara has like red street sign. I didn't think it was Ankara, but
yeah,
maybe
because that could actually point us that direction potentially. The fact that we have like a lot of new industry buildings and such.
Do we have any water tanks on?
Yeah, I was looking. I think
buildings?
we're actually just two. We're not in a residential area, so we don't really get any. I think.
Yeah.
As far as I could tell. So yeah, I mean, water tanks are super. Well, not super, but definitely can be super useful in Turkey as well. And if you're not sure if it's Turkey, if it's a really hard round, check for water tanks on the roofs of the apartment buildings, because 90% in Turkey will have one. And the only other country like that in Europe is really Albania, I would say, and sometimes Montenegro. So pretty useful stuff. Okay, I would say then let's. What do you prefer? Go Adana or go Ankara, or just stick in the south? What do you think?
I think I'll stick with Adana.
Okay,
that was just my vibe.
I also like the guess. Again, it's not really a round that has too much to work with, so you'd probably have to be quite experienced in Turkey to get it correct consistently, but let's see. And it was Istanbul, actually. Wow. But that checks out with the kind of like newer building, you know, economic stuff going on, because like I think Western Turkey accounts for a lot of the GDP and stuff like that, so it doesn't exactly surprise me. Next one here. Okay, number one tip right here with this landscape. If you zoom in, see the white painted poles with the black bottom, that's going to be Russia. That's simple as that. Okay, so knowing that it's Russia, what is coming to mind here?
So it looks like we have this pretty flat landscape and a lot of birch tree rows, I think, if you zoom in on those birches.
Kind of hard to tell because of the shadow.
Maybe not, actually.
Yeah, we don't see any white
trunks,
trunks,
I guess not. Okay, so not birches, actually.
But yeah, I think we actually might
Here
be looking
there
at
are.
that. Just
okay.
further, yeah. I would say that birch.
But either way, I think they are birch tree rows, actually. Either way, this sort of like very wide open, just grassy fields, that's like very typical landscape of the area in like central, like east of the Urals, this sort of area of Russia. So yeah, between Chelyabinsk and Novosibirsk, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And out of those four, we're obviously looking at that kind of less vibrant coverage, which is Generation 3 car. And that one, it just really is super uncommon in Omsk, where they overwrote it all. Whereas it's super common in Kurgan, in Tyumen, and really quite common in Novosibirsk as well. So it would stand to reason that we're probably not in Omsk for that, even though it looks quite a lot like Omsk.
Exactly.
One thing I noticed as well is we have a little red sticker here, which is really hard to tell, but those red stickers are super common in the oblasts that hug Kazakhstan, so that can be useful as well. If you're completely unsure about the area and you see a little red sticker above the black sock, then yeah, could be that. I guess my thought here was probably like Kurgan, maybe Tyumen, but
I agree.
I can see others too.
Yep, I would agree. I think Kurgan is a good guess here.
Okay, let's go for Kurgan downtown. And it ends up being all the stuff down near Kemerovo here.
Yeah, that's about as east as you would go with that sort of landscape, so quite unlucky there.
I guess one other thing I could say in hindsight is there was some slight elevation going on there. And
that's true.
Kurgan, even though it's so close to the Urals, is pretty much a flat oblast, so kind of like Kazakhstan. So yeah, but still definitely a difficult round, I think. Without car as well. With car, it's easier, but yeah. Okay, now first thing to notice about this one, well, there are a few things to notice about this one. We have a sign set up for left-hand drive. As you're driving, obviously, this is going to be set up for left. And then we also have a bollard with a red kind of reflector on it. This is the Australian style of bollard, which you also see similar ones in Netherlands, Romania, Turkey, but this is the Australian style, set up for left-hand drive with the red on the left. And then we have rumble strips here. Everything with the white road lines is checking out for Australia. Even if we had none of those things, the predominance of the eucalyptus trees out here in the distance would just scream Australia. And, you know, as you play Geoguessr and encounter Australia more, you get to know what eucalyptus trees look like, but they have pale bark and kind of brownish leaves, and they're very, very useful. So beyond that, now that we've established that it's Australia, we still have to answer where. Where are you thinking so far, Radu?
So it looks like we have some shorter reflectors, if I'm not mistaken, on some of them.
Some of them, yeah. Over on this side.
I think, yeah, that one and the one like right next to us to the south seem to have like this shorter reflector, right? Yeah, so that's really common in Queensland and South Australia. And I mean, I'm not an expert at Australia, but I think this landscape would probably be more Queensland.
If you had to figure the two, then it definitely looks more Queensland than South Australia, I agree.
It is kind of weird though.
So, yeah, I mean, Queensland, obviously we're getting up in latitude. As soon as you're into Queensland, you're pretty much in the subtropics. I mean, even by Sydney is almost subtropical, but yeah, by Brisbane, you're definitely subtropics. And I get the feeling that this is not quite tropical enough for Queensland.
So I guess maybe maybe I just misremembered, or the short reflectors are like maybe not.
Oh yeah, I mean like it's my meta originally, and I feel like it's funny because a lot of people still use it and it is somewhat useful, but I would use it as kind of something you check after the landscape rather than before. So what I'm meaning to say is here that I think the short reflectors are lying, and this is probably New South Wales. Yeah,
that definitely was what I was thinking with like the landscape. I wasn't thinking either Queensland or South Australia too much. So,
Queensland and New South Wales often have really long grass like this. So I think New South Wales is also making sense in that regard compared to Victoria, for example. And also like kind of long dry grass. And then we have like a lot of slight hills around the place here. It also feels kind of cold and a bit misty, which, I mean, I would associate with like kind of inland Victoria and New South Wales as well. So I'm thinking this is like somewhere between Wagga Wagga and Dubbo myself. I think that's my call here.
Yeah, that sounds solid.
So I think we'll go in Molong here. And also this area, even though we are past the Eastern Mountains, it does still have quite a few hills, as you can see. So I think that could make a lot of sense. And okay, it was actually Queensland. They were not lying. Wow. So let's have a look at that again here, see if there's anything else. I mean, that does surprise me, to be honest. I mean, with Google Car, it's more easy, probably. We probably have the white Google Car, which is really common there. But actually, it's even hard to tell what color car this was.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the back of the car, so interesting. But yeah, okay, the short reflectors did not lie. When it's a square shape, it is often Queensland or South Australia, so consider that. I still think, looking around, I would go to New South Wales. I have not seen anything that would change my mind apart from the reflectors. So, but be that as it may, probably was always going to be Queensland or New South Wales with this kind of grass. So yeah, interesting one.
Certainly interesting.
And that time it was a bit more of a poor score because of the Oz and the Russia, but still decent. Okay, so now we'll head through to NMPZ. I'm thinking I might get you to do some explaining on your own now, and we'll go quicker. So we'll give it a 30-second, and you just like explain your thought process, and hopefully come to the correct answer. Let's see. Or maybe I'll do a seed after you, but let's go with Radu first.
So if I don't make any blunders. All right, so this one looks like the US. We have these yellow inside lines, and it feels too cold for anywhere in Latin America, really. And we have these outer rumble strips, which are also really common in the US. And then this concrete road kind of makes me think somewhere in the Midwest. It's very common in Iowa, but I wouldn't really go Iowa here. I was kind of thinking more Oklahoma with the red soil, but I don't know.
Okay, nice guess.
Okay, Kansas. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, that's good. I was, I mean, I wasn't quite sure what I thought, but I was definitely my first thought with the concrete highway for sure.
Yeah, so if you want to go back into the location, I would like to point out a few things that
Hmm.
made me not think Iowa.
Hmm.
So, firstly, we have this kind of, I don't know if you can actually make it out, but there's like kind of red soil, I thought. It might not be, it might just be the grass actually, but yeah, I guess it's just a grass, but I thought it was red soil. But either
Okay.
way, that kind of made me not think Iowa, which was funny because it wasn't
It
actually.
helped.
But
It helped.
the other big thing is these short like little trees. These are called eastern red cedars, I think.
Mm.
And these are like really common, especially in like Oklahoma and like maybe
Oh, you
southern
mean these
Kansas,
ones?
that sort
The
of area.
kind of the
No, no, no.
deciduous ones? Or
The
no,
the
these
ones that
ones.
are like,
Okay.
yeah, these ones. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
I
Yeah.
believe they're eastern red cedars. I think that's what they're. Yeah.
Right.
And these are just like really common, especially in like Oklahoma area, like and the surrounding states.
Yeah.
You do also get them a little more east sometimes, like Tennessee, Kentucky, but like with this landscape, obviously you wouldn't be thinking there.
And then also, isn't the gaps in the rumble strips quite good for ruling out Canada, or at least making it less likely?
Actually, not something I know honestly, but it could be.
Okay. Okay. I'm actually not quite sure of the answer myself, but something
Yeah,
I sometimes use if I'm at a loss for everything else, but also this highway shield, which we could make out was not a
yeah.
Canadian style. So yeah. Okay. Good start. Good start.
All right, this one immediately I thought of Ukraine. So you have this kind of really bad, poor quality road and this slightly reddish tinge to the road and to the soil as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
Red
then
Road
we also
mentioned.
have this poplar tree. Yep, red meta. This poplar tree, which like poplar trees are really common, especially in Ukraine and Russia. So I would go for maybe like a southernish Ukraine here. I think it feels fairly southern. Yeah, somewhere around there is probably good.
Nice guess. Wow. Anything else you want to mention about that one, or you think you covered it?
Yeah, I don't think there's really much else.
Good guess.
Wow, what is this? Okay, we have a crazy round over here. I'm not sure what these trees are. They're very interesting. It's really flat, was one thing I noticed. Like, my mind went to maybe, like, Netherlands or something, although some of the architecture over there might be a little weird. Um,
That is like this is
I don't
not one
really
for around
know.
like this.
Yeah, I guess try Netherlands. I don't really know what it might be.
I'm
It could be
curious.
like Baltic or something as well.
Wow.
Italy, wow.
That
That
is
is a tough
not an
one.
easy. I was thinking maybe Denmark or like Poland. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, not Italy though.
I'm curious to look back at it and see what we could have
Maybe this
used.
structure here was
This
from
building was
quite.
weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of making me think more like Eastern Europe, but
Mm.
like the flatness did not make me think of like somewhere in Eastern Europe.
I did
Um,
also think of France because the road is quite raised off the rest of the
that's
like
true.
plants and
Yeah.
everything, which you see that quite often in France and Belgium. Like you can see it quite pronounced here. But I don't think many people would get Italy right here, to be honest.
Yeah, this is a really, really difficult Italy. We don't really have much to go off of. Even the houses in distance don't really feel
No.
particularly Italian.
I mean, the color of this one does, but as you said, like it's kind of
Yeah,
messed up and it almost looked like graffiti. And yeah, I could also
yeah,
kind of like, gave Eastern European vibes to be, honest.
yeah.
So, but
And I'm not sure what this tree plantation is. Like,
that's also true. Like it almost looks like a rubber tree plantation. Clearly, it's not.
yeah,
But maybe it's not apple trees, is it? What's
could
that?
be an orchard or
Hmm.
something. Yeah,
I mean, like generally speaking, especially facing this direction, like anything with planted trees makes it harder. Unless it's a specific crop, then you're left without a lot of the clues that you would normally have from vegetation. So yeah, kind of tough.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, interesting round. Like, yeah, still, I mean, like looking at this undergrowth, I would not go Italy. I just wouldn't. So it's a tough one. All right, let's head through.
Okay. My first thought was Ghana if we're driving right, but if we're driving left, it's yeah, no, it is Ghana. Okay, we can kind of slightly make out the car blur, which fits for Ghana, and I think that might be yellow plate there, and this is just sort of tropical landscape. Um, I don't really know where, just somewhere like near Kumasi is probably fine.
Okay,
All right, near
nice guess.
Accra. Yeah.
So Ghana has the white line in the center of the road, which is very useful for Ghana. Oh yeah, we actually were looking at the front of the car there. And then also, Ghana in the south is quite hilly, and
Yeah.
I guess also Ghana often, like in an NPZ, Ghana has very thin lines and they're often quite faded. Like you can definitely see that's thinner than a typical European line or something, I would say. So I feel like that does actually track quite a lot of the time. Yellow plates on the cars. Yeah.
Am I the only person who's like, the vibes of Sri Lanka and Ghana feel very similar to me, and so sometimes I have to like think about which one it is. Obviously, here we had other clues like the driving right and the car blur, which we could kind of make out, but I feel like sometimes I get tripped up by that. Like this kind of looks like Sri Lanka to me,
I think it's
just
also
by
the
overall vibes.
you know, how
Red
much red
soil.
soil there is.
Yeah,
The quality of the road also looks similar. I dare say
Yeah.
Sri Lankan lines are a bit thicker, so that could actually be something useful to
that
look
could
into.
be, yeah.
But yeah, I'm just kind of talking out my ass there, but it probably is true to some extent that the lines in Ghana are somewhat thin. I feel like also, one thing I figured out is that Guatemalan lines are really thin a lot of the time. They're like some of the thinnest in the world from what I've seen, so that could be something as well. Okay, final round.
Okay, so this one should be Indonesia with this pole style. When you have this long diagonal support beam, that's really common in the Nusas, so anywhere in like that southeast part of Indonesia. This palm tree also makes sense. I think it's a Palmyra palm, and these are very common in this sort of area. I'm not sure which. I was thinking maybe like Timor is possible with the dryness. Timor is quite dry.
Ooh, nice guess.
Yeah, okay, nice.
Very good. Yeah, I mean, those ones can be a real pain to get. Sumba has like kind of like, what do they say, savanna landscape? So
Yeah, exactly.
that can be quite distinctive a lot of the time, bit rocky, unique architecture as well. But the rest of them, I feel like people definitely struggle with. That's a good guess.
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily thinking Timor myself.
Yeah,
so.
the Palmyra palms, those specific palms, are really common in Sumba as well. I feel like they're not as common in the like actual like East Nusa, West Nusa.
So it kind of looks like a fan palm, but each branch is another fan, kind of. That's the way they kind of look. Maybe we can look at... oh no, this is the only date this road's been covered, actually, just recently. So we can't look at how it looks elsewhere, but there's another one.
Yep.
Okay, nice. Really good guess. The road is kind of like interesting looking for Indonesia here. Very pale. Not typical Indo, I would say. So that could also be useful, I suppose. Okay, so that was a really good score. I might go here myself for a final round, and then you can maybe as well say what you were thinking instead. Okay, so here we have the New Zealand bollards again. We have the white signpost that we mentioned again. We have lots of poplars as well, which is interesting. So I'm looking at the fence here. This fence is like big posts, so that can be either North or South Island. That's pretty common in both, I would say. I'm wondering if this could be all the way south in New Zealand, but I'm thinking it's actually maybe just North Island here. I think I would just click middle of North Island, even though this can easily be south. It's kind of a difficult round, I feel. Oh yeah, and it was all the way south. So were you thinking that?
Was definitely a tough one. Can you go back to it? I'm just curious to see. Yeah, it's certainly a tough one. Maybe if you could like make out the pole. Is it a wooden pole, I think?
Yeah,
it is.
I kind of assumed it was concrete, and I know that in the Southland, concrete poles are often holy poles, so that's kind of what made me not rule it out, but think it's more less likely. But
yeah, overall, definitely not the easiest one, and I'm not an expert at New Zealand either, so I'm not one to like talk about like New Zealand tips. So
I guess if we're talking in hindsight, we had the fence, which is the one that's slightly more common in South Island. We had like prevalence of poplars, which tend to show up in kind of colder climates a lot. But I think the biggest thing to actually get us to go correctly here is like how many low mountains there were in both directions there, which is kind of like very Southland has like, especially just like flat fields and then also low mountains nearby.
Yep.
And also a slightly grainy pavement, but we didn't really have a good example of that here. This direction actually probably could have gotten it, but yeah, that's also really common there. Okay, not a good start. Next one here. Wait. As rounds in this country go, it's kind of difficult, but I think it's Eswatini. So, I mean, looking at the mountain, it could have almost been Lesotho, but we have like a lot of this long golden grass here. And then red soil. So those two things combined should be Eswatini. It could still be elsewhere in the world, but yeah, these like tree plantations on top of the mountain as well. Feeling pretty good. I think I've seen this landscape north of Mbabane maybe, so I'm gonna go there. Okay, nice.
Cooking, nice.
Very good. Nothing to say there, I assume.
Yep.
Next one here is South Africa. Yellow outer lines, white middle lines. You know, we got the cat eyes on the road. And these chevrons, everything is checking out. Now this one is kind of difficult. This kind of dry area, the flat mountains, that can be anywhere in like kind of the western region of the country. And the mountains are kind of low here. It is very dry. I'm thinking we might be like going through a mountain pass around this area, but I guess it could also be out here, which I'm hoping it's not. Okay, it was kind of halfway between. Yeah. I mean, anything to say there?
Pretty good there, though.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I mean, this area is sort of not the easiest area to reach, I guess, I think. There's not that many roads anyways in that area, so, yeah, you're just kind of, like, leaving the south coast, which is a little more wet, and, like, entering into that drier area. And so, yeah, just that overall landscape. I think where you went is completely fine, if you ask me, so.
Yeah. When we started playing Geoguessr, they didn't have this map that kind of tracks the climate. So since they added that, a lot of countries became a lot easier. South Africa is pretty consistent. Like, it will show you where it is pretty green and where it's not. So could be worthwhile if you look around and see, okay, this is pretty dry. Probably worth clicking in somewhere in the yellow areas. Yeah. Next one here. We have octagonal or hexagonal pavement. We have like chipper like walls here. This is almost certainly Europe. I don't see any North American cars. We have white street sign. That's kind of interesting to me. Like, I considered Netherlands. I think Netherlands also often has blue ones and stuff. Black houses. This could be Denmark for me still, but I think Denmark also has colored ones sometimes as well. Steering wheel is on the left there. It's a right-hand drive country. I think I'll go Netherlands here, but that's my main thought. Okay, over the border in Germany makes a lot of sense, actually, with the white street sign. Yeah, okay, anything to say there? I mean, the architecture was definitely interesting.
Yeah, the architecture I think is actually the main clue for me there. So there's this belt throughout central Germany going from like North Rhine-Westphalia towards like to the east to basically south of Dresden, where you get these chipped black, like this dark black chipped design on the houses. Like on the sides of the houses. It's something like you see a lot in like this sort of belt. That runs through the central part of the country.
Right.
And you certainly see it here on the houses.
Prominently, yeah.
Yeah, so it's usually this is like a very, very dark example, but if you look at the ones that are like a slightly light gray, yeah, like this is like the typical sort of house that you'd see, especially in like North Rhine-Westphalia, and then also in like Thüringen and Saxony, you get those as well.
And it did occur to me as well that we probably weren't looking at a yellow plate here, so obviously with a few more seconds I probably wouldn't have gone for Netherlands because, you know, you will just basically see only yellow plates in Netherlands. But yeah, that's interesting. I think I had heard Wolf Tracker talk about that before, but I forgot in the moment. But also, yeah, I mean, it would be the case that in Netherlands you would have blue street signs most of the time, right? So would that also check out in your opinion?
Yeah, that definitely checks out, I think. Germany definitely probably most often has the white street signs out of like those Central European countries.
Yeah. Okay. That was a decent score, but obviously would like to have gotten the country. That's okay. And the last one here, okay, this one's definitely one where I could get a low score. It's Generation 2, so that really makes me think more Canada over US. Also doesn't quite look like Alaska here. We do have some elevation, but we don't actually see any mountains. So to me, this kind of feels like a North Alberta, Northwestern Territories, maybe Yukon, BC. Maybe of them, I'm thinking we should go for like a... I don't know if it is on the road to Yellowknife. I don't quite think so. I'm going to go for Northern Alberta somewhere here. Oh, and it was even Northern Manny instead. I considered it, but I thought maybe it was a bit too much elevation. We're just like next to lakes. Sometimes you do get that elevation. Any thoughts about that one?
I think I'm not really like confident on it, but like the sort of vegetation wasn't exactly the type you'd find near Yellowknife. So near Yellowknife, you start to get like those really like pointy pines. I don't know exactly what type of pine they are, but it's like the ones that like you find commonly in Alaska as well. You
Mm,
see some of them here, but
but
like
it's
there's a
not
lot
the
more. Yeah,
most tree.
those types. Yeah. Mostly here you see like some different types of pines, I feel like, and also a ton of birches.
Mm,
There's Manitoba is like filled with birches. Like I feel like out of the prairie provinces, it probably has the most.
mm-hmm.
They're all over the prairies, but it's like more of like that mid latitude sort of. It's not like the super far north. Like once you get to Yellowknife, you pretty much stop having birches. So I really wasn't sure about Manitoba. Like to me, it was kind of like a Manitoba Alberta 50-50.
Mm, mm,
I guess, yeah, I don't know. The poll, I guess, kind of checks out for Manitoba, but I
yeah.
wouldn't like.
Yeah, I mean, this pole top
Yeah,
is probably, it's just less common in Saskatchewan where they normally put the crossbar right at the top.
yeah.
But, I mean, yeah, it can be definitely Alberta or Manny. Okay, well, yeah, that was not the greatest seed, but, yeah, we got it in the end. And I accidentally press play again. But, yeah, I think we'll end it off there. Radu, thank you very much for coming on the channel. Hopefully this was, educational for people. And, anything
Yep.
else to, say to the good viewers at home before we end it off here?
Hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to see more kind of stuff like this, I do have some explanatory videos on my channel as well, so
Yeah, go
feel free
check
to
out
check that
some
out.
of Radu's Country Streaks videos. They're really great. And I'll have that linked in the description. Alright guys, thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.